Welcome to SATV News. This is Riaz Mahmood with our headlines. Mirza Fakhrul warns against political mistakes, calls for free and fair polls. Holding referendum national election separately will create chaos, says Rizvi. Election Commission will pick NCP election symbol if a party misses October 19 deadline, says EC Secretary Akhtar Ahmed. 9 killed, several others injured in fire at chemical warehouse and garment factory in capital's Mirpur. Now in details. BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir has urged political parties and leaders to act with caution, warning that mistakes could allow fascists to regain control in the country. No errors can be allowed because political missteps could plunge the nation into the hands of fascists again. No one wants to see fascism return, he said, speaking as the chief guest at an extended meeting of Shodar Upazila and Ruhia Thana BNP held at the Thakurgaon District Shilpakola Academy Auditorium today. Mr. Fakhrul emphasized the importance of elections. The only way to overcome the current crisis is through free and fair elections. The faster the elections happen, the sooner the crisis will end. Democracy has no alternative. Democracy itself is the only solution, he said. BNP Senior Joint Secretary General Ruhul Kabir Rizvi today said that if the referendum for the constitutional implementation of the July Charter and the upcoming national parliamentary election are not held simultaneously, it will lead to chaos. He said the majority of political parties have agreed that the referendum on the July Charter should be held on the same day as the parliamentary election. This will save both time and cost, he added. Mr. Rizvi made these remarks as the chief guest at a protest discussion organized by the Jatiyatavadi Ulama Dal at the National Press Club. Speaking on the peer system, the BNP leader said more than 50% of the common people know nothing about the peer system. He further said that attempting to forcibly impose something about which people have no knowledge or experience cannot be called democracy. The Election Commission has warned that it will decide the symbol for the National Citizen Party if the party does not submit its preferred choice by October 19. Speaking to reporters at the Election Commission headquarters today, EC Secretary Akhtar Ahmed said the NCP must inform us of their alternative symbol by the 19th. Otherwise, the Commission will make a decision at its discretion. We believe there is no need to include the water lily as a symbol. Earlier, the EC had sent a letter to the NCP asking the party to select a symbol from the 50 options listed in the election rules. However, the party has maintained that it will register only with the water lily symbol. On demands from several parties, including Jamaat for a referendum, the EC Secretary said the government will take the decision and the Commission will act accordingly. At least 9 people were killed and several others seriously injured in a fire that broke out at a ready-made garment factory and a chemical warehouse today in Shialbari, Mirpur, in the capital, the fire service has said. The blaze, which started at around 11:45 am, was brought under control after about 3 hours of effort. The injured have been admitted to the National Institute of Burn and Plastic Surgery. An official at the fire service and civil defense's medical cell told the fire broke out at 2 establishments, on one a garment factory and the other a chemical warehouse. The garment factory is a 7-story building and the fire originated on its 3rd floor. We have almost extinguished the fire there, but the blaze at the chemical warehouse is yet to be fully contained. He added that bleaching powder, plastic and hydrogen peroxide were stored inside the warehouse. Initially, 5 firefighting units were dispatched to the scene and 3 more units joined the operation later, said Talha. Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs Advisor Dr. Asif Nozrul today said the process of receiving bail bonds online will begin on a trial basis tomorrow, allowing bail documents to reach prisons directly in a single click. After a person secures bail, there are reportedly 12 stages before release, often involving money and harassment. From tomorrow, a pilot project will be launched. With just one click, the bail bond will instantly reach the respective jail, he said. The advisor revealed this while addressing as the chief guest at the Attorney General's Office Internship Program 2025 at the Supreme Court auditorium here. With Attorney General Mohammad Asaduzzaman in the chair, the function was also addressed by UNDP Resident Representative Stefan Lilla, Norwegian Ambassador Hakon Harald Gulbarsund and Swedish Ambassador Nicholas Linus Ragnar Weeks. Additional Attorney General Anik R. Hawk delivered the address of welcome on the occasion. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has expressed his interest in visiting Bangladesh in the coming months, hoping the trip would strengthen ties between the two countries. President Lula made the announcement during a meeting with Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus on Monday in Rome local time on the sidelines of a FAO organized World Food Forum flagship event in Italy's Rome. Both leaders served as keynote speakers at the forum and later held a bilateral meeting at the FAO headquarters to discuss matters of mutual interest, including social business, universal healthcare, social inclusion, and strategies to combat poverty. Viewers are taking a short break. Stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated.
Welcome back. You are watching SATV News. Now, news from abroad. US President Donald Trump said on Monday that a Gaza ceasefire deal had opened the door to rebuilding as he attended a summit of world leaders in Egypt. Trump arrived in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh shortly before sunset for the gathering of more than 20 heads of state, which he co-chaired with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. A new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins, Trump said during the meeting. Under the deal, Hamas freed the last living Israeli hostages held in Gaza, while Israel released busloads of Palestinian detainees, marking the most significant step toward peace since the start of the war. The ceasefire agreed last week halted one of Israel's largest offensives of the conflict, an all-out assault on Gaza City that had killed scores of people each day. Meanwhile, in the same program, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said that a two-state solution was the only way to achieve the ambitions of the Palestinians and the Israelis and live in peace. Sisi's statement came after he signed a document on the Gaza ceasefire deal with US President Donald Trump, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani during the international summit hosted by Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh. Referring to Palestinian people, he said they also have the right to enjoy freedom and to live in their independent state, a state that lives side by side with Israel in peace, security and mutual recognition. Earlier, Donald Trump thanked Sisi for his role as a mediator. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Monday said the country is ready to help monitor the ceasefire in Gaza and to decommission the weaponry and capability of Hamas in the enclave. The United Kingdom stands ready to play its full part, Starmer said from the Egyptian seaside resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. He also said the decommissioning of weaponry of Hamas is hugely and critically important for the future peace. UK has experience in this in relation to Northern Ireland. The decommissioning of the IRS weaponry, added the Prime Minister.
But also decommissioning the capability of Hamas and their weaponry.
US President Donald Trump on Monday reiterated his belief that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan could play a pivotal role in ending the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Erdogan spoke by phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin last Tuesday and said diplomatic initiatives need to gain momentum to achieve a just and lasting peace in the Ukraine-Russia war, Erdogan's office said. The statement cited Erdogan as saying Turkey will continue to work for peace. It said bilateral relations and regional and global issues, including Turkey's efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza, were also discussed on the call. Cameroon opposition candidate Issa Tikoroma declared victory late on Monday in the country's October 12 presidential election, urging President Paul Biya to accept defeat and honor the truth of the ballot box. Our victory is clear. It must be respected, Tikoroma said in a speech from his hometown of Garoua in the north of the Central African state. The people have chosen, and this choice must be respected. Tikoroma, a former government spokesperson and employment minister, broke ranks with Biya earlier this year and mounted a campaign that drew large crowds and endorsement from a coalition of opposition parties and civic groups.
Le monde entier nous regarde. L'histoire nous observe.
Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina has fled the African nation, the head of the opposition, a military source and a foreign diplomat said on Monday, the second time that young protesters have toppled a government in just over a month of worldwide Gen Z unrest. The president's office did not reply to requests for comment. In an address to the nation broadcast on Facebook late on Monday, Rajoelina said he had to move to a safe location to protect his own life. He did not disclose his whereabouts but appeared defiant, saying that he would not allow Madagascar to be destroyed. Young residents of Madagascar's capital on Tuesday dismissed his speech as propaganda and said that he should resign immediately. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Monday's Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt as a decisive milestone, but said many steps lay ahead to achieving a lasting peace in the region. Macron said the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza should be accelerated and international monitoring of deliveries was needed to ensure it was delivered with the right volumes. Macron was also asked about the situation in Madagascar, whose president fled on Monday. He said he could not immediately confirm reports that France had aided President Andry Rajoelina to flee, but added that constitutional orders should be preserved in the African country.
La grande préoccupation qui est la nôtre, dire l'amitié de la France à l'égard du peuple malgache Et au fond, j'ai deux messages. Je pense qu'il est très important.
An explosion at a farmhouse in the northern Italy during a police raid killed 3 Carabinieri officers and injured 12 others, said the Italy's fire service on Tuesday. The explosion occurred in Castel di Azzano near the city of Verona overnight and caused the farmhouse to collapse, firefighters said. A woman was also injured and 7 firefighters were taken to hospital for checks, they added. According to local media outlets, the officers were trying to carry out an eviction order and that the initial indications were that gas canisters had exploded in the building. The noise from the blast could be heard as far as 5 kilometers away. At least 14 people died in a mine collapse in El Callao, Venezuela, after torrential rains hit the southeast region. A command post was set up to coordinate operations to recover the 14 deceased, led by Brigadier General Gregory Gonzalez Acevedo, head of the operational zones for damage assessment and needs analysis in Bolivar state. The deaths occurred in 3 different shafts of the Cuatro Equinas de Caratal mine in the town of El Callao, about 850 kilometers southeast of Caracas, the agency reported on its Instagram account. Search and rescue operations began with the pumping out of all the shafts in the area to lower the water level and then evaluating rescue efforts for the people trapped inside the gold mine, the statement added, without providing further details. Torrential downpours that lashed Mexico last week killed at least 64 people and left 65 missing, the government said on Monday, after a tropical depression triggered landslides and floods in parts of the Gulf Coast and central states. This intense rain was not expected to be of such magnitude, said President Claudia Sheinbaum during a press briefing. Around 1 lakh homes were affected, she said, adding that she would meet later in the day with the finance ministry to discuss rebuilding and visit several hard-hit states. The rains also wiped out infrastructure, including bridges, and left streets choked with mud. Footage from last week showed emergency crews wading through deep water to reach stranded residents and deliver supplies to isolated communities. China's President Xi Jinping on Tuesday held bilateral meetings with other leaders from Ghana, Dominica, Mozambique, Iceland and Sri Lanka at a global summit on women's rights in Beijing. The 2-day global leaders meeting on women, held in conjunction with UN Women, seeks to further advance women's development globally, gender equality and the well-rounded development of women, authorities said. The summit comes as China has made great strides in educating women, who account for around 50% of students in higher education and around 43% of the total employed population. Elon Musk's SpaceX launched its 11th Starship rocket from Starbase, Texas on Monday. The launch was a test mission to demonstrate the giant vehicle's reusable design for lofting satellites and eventually taking humans to the moon and Mars. The launch's splashdown happened in the Gulf of Mexico. U.S. President Donald Trump issued an executive order in January 2025 calling on countries' institutions to refer to it as the Gulf of America.
Booster and ship, nominal power.
Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Mirza Fakhrul warns against political mistakes. Calls for free and fair polls. Holding referendum national election separately will create chaos, says Rizvi. Election Commission will pick NCP election symbol. A party misses Auckland, says EC Secretary Akhtar Ahmed. 9 killed, several others injured in fire at chemical warehouse and garment factory in capital's Mirpur. You are updated with our top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.